Chapter 878. The journey was very long, and after 3 months, they finally arrived at the land of Great Liang. Xie Jingxing's caravan moved very fast. If it was an ordinary person, one would need to walk for more than half a year. Shen Miao was able to reach the Great Liang so early because the capital of the Great Liang was in Longyi. In her previous and current lifetime, Shen Miao had never been to the Great Liang. In her impression, Great Liang was a very rich country, and she heard that Longyi was also very prosperous. When Fu Ming was studying, he once told her that if there was a day, he also wanted to go and see how prosperous Longyi was and if Great Liang was as peaceful as described in the books. Now that time could not be turned back. Fu Ming and Wan Yu had already turned into dust, and she brought Fu Ming's wish to Longyi city of the Great Liang. These days, Shen Miao had already changed out of her wedding dress. Xie Jingxing had specially prepared clothes for her, and it seemed to be made according to the rank of the Great Liang's Qin Wang Fei. Their caravan arrived at the entrance of Longyi, and when the guards at the entrance saw Xie Jingxing, they did not even look at the token before letting them through. Moreover, this group of carriages was majestic, and it attracted a lot of attention when they walked on the streets of Longyi. The commoners shouted, "His Highness Prince Rui has returned with Princess Consort." Shen Miao's heart moved. Xie Jingxing was marrying a wife in Mingqi, but the commoners here seemed to know the ins and outs of the matter and were not surprised at all. It seemed that long before this, Xie Jingxing had thought of ways to spread the news in the Great Liang. As for Xie Jingxing saying that Emperor Yang Lu already knew about this matter, Shen Miao did not really believe it. Just as she was thinking, the curtain of the carriage was pulled open and Xie Jingxing rode outside. "Want to see the scenery of Longyi?" At this time, he had already taken off his mask. In Great Liang, most likely he did not need to hide his identity, and his expression was different from when he was in Mingqi. That kind of lazy and frivolous attitude had slightly dissipated, and there was more sharpness and edge. Shen Miao looked outside. It was exactly the same as what was recorded in the books, but the scenery of Longyi was different from the Ding capital. Even though the Ding capital was lively, it was only lively in the rich and powerful families. So what if restaurants could be found everywhere? How could ordinary people afford to enter? On the streets of Longyi, the people walking were always full of smiles. Shen Miao noticed that the clothes that these commoners were wearing were of good quality, and their expressions were also very healthy. It seemed that everyone was living well. Shen Miao thought in her heart that the common people of the Great Liang lived in peace and contentment. Indeed, the rumors of the common people were not deceiving. Longyi was also very big, and most of the buildings in the Ding capital were exquisite and gorgeous, but the shops and restaurants in Great Liang were grand and luxurious, with some imposing manner. Shen Miao had also been to the Qin country, but the Qin country did not make one yearn for it as much as Longyi. Even though she was experienced and knowledgeable, she couldn't help but look at it curiously. When Xie Jingxing saw her like this, he raised his brows. "There's no need to be anxious. In the future, when there is time, I will bring you out for a stroll. Longyi is not small. It will take time to familiarize yourself with this place." He did not deliberately lower his voice, and there were commoners who were nearby that looked curiously at Shen Miao's side and said, "His Highness Prince of First Rank treats Wang Fei very well and dotes on her so much. No wonder His Majesty didn't agree to marry him in the past. It turns out that he has a special liking for Wang Fei. The princess is also very beautiful. They look like a perfect match. Not long later, she will give birth to the little heir." Shen Miao also heard these discussions, and her face flushed red in an instant. The commoners of Longyi seemed to be very kind, and even the discussions were mostly congratulations or praises. Shen Miao felt somewhat absent-minded. All along, she felt that human nature was evil, and people would always comment on things that one did not know, but they did not know that those comments were enough to destroy a person's life. Coming to Longyi and marrying Xie Jingxing, she was after all a Mingqi person and thought that it would be the same as in the past, attracting a lot of criticism, but she did not hear anything. She felt somewhat surprised, but her heart was inexplicably touched. Chapter 879. At the back of the procession, Ji Yushu said to Gao Yang, third older brother also put in a lot of effort. In order to let the commoners of Long Yi accept sister-in-law, he had long started to speak. Heroes have a weakness for the charms of the beauty. Gao Yang shook his fan and sighed. Then what to do? It is just that His Majesty must be very angry, and there are also those young ladies in the residence who have deep feelings for third older brother. One fear that sister-in-law will be entangled this time. What is there to be afraid of? Gao Yang said, Shen Miao is not an ordinary person. It is not certain who will be the one torturing who. Finishing, he said in disappointment, now that one is returning to the original position, one instead missed the days in Ming Qi. Who says otherwise? Ji Shu also sighed and patted Gao Yang's shoulder and said with the tone of a fellow sufferer, Let's go. The Great Liang's palace occupied a wide area, and there were many buildings and side halls that were connected together. There were golden glazed tiles and bright red pillars. Most likely it was because the imperial family liked gold and red that the entire palace had a sense of majesty. The stone lion at the entrance was mighty and arrogant. On the dragon throne that was made of gold, a golden dragon was hovering, and the dragon's head was at the back of the chair with 2 red gems. The dragon's tail was entwined to the armrest, and the fine scales on the tip of the tail were carved vividly, as if in the next moment it would fly up to the 9 heavens from the dragon throne. At this moment, there was no one in the empty court hall, and there was only the man sitting on the dragon throne. He sat upright and dignified, but one did not know why. At this moment, when the sun was about to extinguish and the candles in the palace were not lit, when the light dimmed inch by inch, that dignified figure seemed especially lonely and lonely. There was the sound of footsteps in the great hall. A female slowly walked over with a long tail and wearing a 9 phoenix crown on her head. She had a gentle smile as she walked towards the man sitting on the dragon throne. She said, Your Majesty is sitting here alone again and did not even inform this concubine. That man then raised his head and seemed to see the person who came. So it is the Empress. Empress Xianda smiled gently. What matter is Your Majesty troubled about? Jing Xing has returned today. Emperor Yong Lu rubbed his forehead. He also brought back that Ming Qi female. I've told him countless times to cut off all contact with that woman. Not only did he not listen, he also intercepted my men, acted first and reported later, married that woman back to Great Liang and brought her to Long Yi, and even made her the legal concubine. Does Your Majesty not like Shen Miao? Empress Xianda's voice was soft. Those who are not of my race must have a different heart. Emperor Yong Lu only said 8 words. 8 words, but also represented his meaning. Those who were not from a Great Liang would naturally not do things that were loyal to the Great Liang. His Majesty doesn't like Shen Miao, but Jing Xing does. Empress Xianda said, Otherwise one would not have traveled thousands of miles to marry Shen Miao back to Long Yi, would not have sent 99 sets of betrothal gifts, and would not have built a good reputation for Shen Miao among the common people. After a pause, she then said, and would not have disobeyed His Majesty. Foxy Charmlord, Emperor Yong Lu said in a deep voice, but there was suppressed anger in his voice. Perhaps Shen Miao really has some outstanding points. Empress Xianda comforted. Jing Xing is a child who has his own ideas. Your Majesty had picked so many beauties for him, but did not fancy them. Now that he is willing to do this for Shen Miao, there must be a reason. Your Majesty is not willing to believe Jing Xing once? It is not that Zhen does not believe him, but Zhen does not believe Shen Miao. Emperor Yong Lu said, But Your Majesty also have no other way, is it not so? Emperor Yong Lu looked at the other with some displeasure. Is Empress trying to say that Zhen is incapable? Of course not. Empress Xianda smiled. Your Majesty is ultimately unable to harden your heart against Jing Xing. That is why Jing Xing would be so unscrupulous and act first and report later. Naturally, it was because he knew that His Majesty would not really punish him out of anger. Chapter 880. What you said is right. After a long while, Emperor Yong Lu replied, But there is no more time. It does not matter who Jing Xing marries, as Zhen do not want to control him, but he cannot bring back variables. That woman's identity is too special, and if Jingxing were to listen to her words, it might bring about changes to the situation in the future. Jin will not allow such a thing to happen. There is no more time. Emperor Yongli's voice was deep. For the great cause of the country, Jin can sacrifice anything, and there is nothing that cannot be ruthless. He said, let both of them make a trip to the palace tomorrow. Jin want to see what kind of female can confuse his mind and also remind him not to forget his own identity. Do not forget his own nature just because he stayed in Mingqi for 2 years. Empress Xianda's brows slightly wrinkled. Jin let him marry an imperial consort, and Jin can also let him take a side consort. Finishing, he stood up and walked down the long stairs and out of the quiet main hall. Empress Xianda stood at the same spot, and her eyes seemed to be sad. After a moment, she sighed and followed out. There is only one prince of the Great Liang, and that was Emperor Yongli's biological brother, Prince Rui. This Prince Rui's identity was very mysterious, and it was said that he followed an expert to travel around at a young age. Thus, from young till now, almost no one had seen what this Prince Rui looked like. Even Deng Gonggong, who followed Emperor Yonglu for the longest time, did not know anything about this Prince Rui. Until 2 years ago, there was news that Prince Rui had returned to Longyi, and at the altar, the commoners were able to see the true face of this Prince Rui. He was indeed distinguished and beautiful, elegant and magnificent. The hearts of the young ladies and daughters-in-law of Longyi were tied to this Prince Rui. But with the sudden appearance of Prince Rui, everyone initially had their suspicions and wondered if this person was an imposter. But after thinking about it, the imperial family was so strict that they would not make a mistake. Moreover, Prince Rui's appearance was very similar to the Empress Dowager, and there were some similarities with Emperor Yonglu. The Great Liang's imperial CF family were all beautiful, and this was an ironclad fact that there was no doubt. After this, Prince Rui returned to Longyi. He resumed his prince status and went to court with the ministers. Some of the ministers objected, saying that this Prince Rui had not been involved in court affairs for so many years and knew nothing about the situation of Longyi and the Great Liang. How could he be allowed to participate in court matters? Wasn't that just messing around? Emperor Yonglu was furious and punished a few of the officials who had caused a ruckus. However, most of the officials were against it, and Emperor Yonglu could not punish them one by one. Later on, it was this Prince Rui who personally handled several difficult matters that the imperial court had been delaying. As a result, the voices of opposition gradually weakened. How could it be possible to say that he knew nothing about the affairs of the imperial court? It was obvious that he knew a lot. He hadn't been in Longyi for so many years and hadn't participated in it, but he had the ability. How could that prove anything? Was he really a genius? In short, in the eyes of the commoners of the Great Liang, Prince Rui was a youth with good looks, good temperament, and good ability. The most important point was that he had a lot of money. For example, this Prince Rui's residence was as magnificent as the imperial palace. However, Emperor Yonglu was a wise ruler and was very lenient towards his younger brother, so he did not blame Prince Rui for this. It was just that the commoners passing by would occasionally stare at the door of Prince Rui's residence and drool, thinking about which family's daughter would be so lucky to enter this residence to be a Wangfei. That would be even better than entering the palace to be a concubine. Who knew that after guessing, Prince Rui actually married a Mingqi's young lady as his wife. Chapter 881. When Shun Miao stepped into the main doors of the residence of Prince Rui, a group of guards dressed in official robes stood straight and greeted her. Respectfully, welcome Wangfei. Xie Jingxing hugged Shun Miao's shoulders and called out to everyone as they walked in, carry the things in. Is the bridal chamber ready? Replying to your highness, everything is ready. A 50-plus-year-old housekeeper ran out from the innermost. He had kind eyes and a simple and honest face. May Wangfei take a look. It has been hard on you, Xie Jingxing said. Not at all, not at all. The old housekeeper smiled. It is good that your highness is back. He then raised his eyes and looked curiously at Shun Miao. Shun Miao faintly felt that the status of this housekeeper was not low, else Xie Jingxing Such a vile person would not speak in such a good tone. She raised her head to meet the other's gaze and gently smiled. The housekeeper seemed to be somewhat flattered, and his face turned red in an instant. Xie Jingxing pulled Shun Miao up in dissatisfaction and walked forward. Don't look anymore. When Shun Miao arrived at the bridal chamber that the housekeeper mentioned, she could not help but be tongue-tied. The bed was big enough for 7 or 8 people to sleep on. It was covered with a soft blanket, and the bedding was bright red. That was fine. After all, a bridal chamber was supposed to be festive. But what was the meaning of the spring scenery on the walls of the bridal chamber? There were also all sorts of lamps, incense that looked very intimate. Shun Miao said, "It is better for me to find another place to sleep." "What is the matter, Foreign?" the housekeeper asked. "Is there anything in this room that you're not satisfied with? Please say, this old servant will let people change it." Xie Jingxing swept a glance at the old housekeeper. "What kind of messy things are pasted on the walls? Tear it off." "That will not do," the old housekeeper insisted. "These are all very meaningful. After all, this is the wedding ceremony of your highness and Foreign. One heard that both of you have not entered the nuptial chamber, and it is the first time in the world, so there would always be some doubts." This old servant had searched for these for a long time. Shun Miao. The words of the servants of Prince Rui's residence were too direct. Even if she was not a shy young lady, she would still feel her face blushing when she heard these undisguised words. Xie Jingxing put down the dagger in his hand and stared at the old housekeeper with eyes that could kill. "Many thanks, Uncle Tang. But I don't need to be taught." He gritted his teeth. "I will." Uncle Tang was startled. "Even so, there is no end to learning." Shun Miao flicked her sleeves and walked out of the door. Really cannot listen to this conversation. This day was spent in the chaos of war and chaos. Shun Miao had just arrived and did not show any squeamish side. Moreover, Longyi was a place with outstanding people, so there was nothing to be picky about. The servants here were also very respectful to her, but they still called her princess, which made her feel a little awkward. In the end, he still wasn't used to it. Even for the dinner at night, Uncle Tang specially made a few light dishes for her according to the taste of the Ming Cheese Ding capital's people. In the afternoon, Xie Jingxing went out for a while. He was probably very busy on weekdays. After all, it was not like when he was in Ming Qi. Xie Jingxing, who returned to the Great Liang, was a Prince Rui who was busy with political affairs. After washing up, the sky had already darkened. Shun Miao returned to the bridal chamber. It was not that she was willing to come here, but it was because other than this bridal chamber, the residence of Prince Rui did not prepare any other rooms for her. Jingzhe and Guyu were still here to serve her, and Bai Lu and Shuangjiang were also promoted to headmaids. Jingzhe was combing Shun Miao's hair as she spoke. Before coming to Longyi, this servant was still thinking that one was unfamiliar with the place and was somewhat afraid. One did not expect that after coming, one would be able to relax. The people in the residence of Prince Rui are extremely respectful to young lady. One think that it is because son-in-law has trained them well. Chapter 882. Still call her young lady. Guyu said, "It should be called Foreign." Yes, you should call him Madam." Jingzhe quickly changed her words and said, "No wonder everyone say that Great Liang is good. After seeing it today, it is indeed a well-deserved reputation. Not to mention Foreign, even this servant also likes this place." "Oh," Shun Miao teased her, "is it not good to live in the Ding capital? Why do you like this place better?" Jingzhe thought about it. "It is not that it is not good. It is just that the people here treat Foreign better." Madam came to Longyi with the identity of Qin Wang Fei. "This is a good start. I feel that it will get better and better in the future." Shun Miao laughed in spite of herself. When she was in Ming Qi, the second and third household in the Shun residence harbored evil intentions, and old Shin Foreign did not have any good intentions towards the first household. Her situation and the Shun family situation was precarious. In the eyes of the maidservants, her life was not easy at all. In addition, there were rumors of him being an idiot, so there was discord in their hearts. It was different in Longyi. She married here because of the title of Rui Wang Fei. Xie Jingxing's attitude towards her also made the surrounding people not dare to be disrespectful to her. It was always good to have a good start from the beginning. People will subconsciously choose to forget the bad things in the past and choose a new start. But would it really get better and better? Shen Miao did not think so. Not mentioning about Qi's side, one feared that the things that Xie Jingxing planned would not be simple. The crisis in Great Liang was not necessarily less than Ming Qi. It would probably be even more dangerous and complicated. Riding on a tiger's back, it was difficult to dismount. Now, he could only brace himself and charge in. However, in her heart, she felt a lightness that she hadn't felt in a long time. Just as he was thinking, he heard Jing Zhe and Gu Yu speaking. "Greetings to your highness." Shen Miao raised her eyes and saw Xie Jingxing walking in. Xie Jingxing said, "Withdraw." Jing Zhe and Gu Yu quickly withdrew. He walked over to the table and sat down. As he waited for Shen Miao to comb her hair, he asked, "How is the habit?" "There is no problem," Shen Miao said. "Long Yi indeed lives up to his reputation." Xie Jingxing poured a cup of tea for himself, "But you have to brace yourself." Shen Miao was suspicious. "What happened to you again?" "Imperial brother has issued an edict to summon us to the palace tomorrow," he said. "Imperial brother is old-fashioned and strict. He's very dissatisfied with me marrying a wife this time, so he'll probably threaten you." Shen Miao glanced at him. "Oh, very dissatisfied with you marrying a wife. You indeed did things behind his back, and even lied to my father and mother that he had long agreed." Xie Jingxing smiled. "It is only an expedient measure. Moreover, so what if he is dissatisfied with you? There are many people in the world that are dissatisfied with you, and Ming Qi is like the carps crossing the river. Did you not send them?" He made a beheading gesture and lazily said, "Send them on their way?" Shen Miao also smiled and said, "Are you hinting at something? That is not the case." Xie Jingxing said, "Our Xie family is not the same as the Fu family. We will not commit fratricide." Shen Miao said, "One did not see that you all are people with feelings and righteousness." "Do not believe?" Xie Jingxing asked. Shen Miao shook her head. "The imperial family has been emotionless since ancient times. Now the intimacy is only because you all do not have any interest entanglements, or it could be said that you are standing on the same side. When one day your standpoint is different, or if you want to snatch something, you will still take action to protect your own share. At that time, there would be no need to talk about brothers." Even though she tried her best to speak calmly, there was an involuntary sense of disgust in her words. Xie Jingxing's sharp eyes stared at her for a long time, and Shen Miao felt somewhat uncomfortable under his gaze before asking, "Why are you looking at me for?" Chapter 883. He shook his head and sighed before smiling. "You seem to not believe in the feelings between the imperial family." Shen Miao pursed her lips and did not say a word. One could not blame her for not believing. In her previous life, she was in the palace, and as the mistress of the 6 palaces, she had seen many things that were unknown to others. In this world, a woman's life was bitter, mostly because of love. Even Mei Foran had fought with her for most of her life, but it was all because of a man's favor. But the men in the palace were different. She had seen princes who loved their concubines in every possible way, and the next day they would send their concubines to their advisors just to win them over. She had also seen that in order to balance the various forces, childhood sweethearts would compromise to become a wife of equal status, and then marry the daughter of a high-ranking official in a sedan chair. Males would abandon females like a pair of worn-out shoes, and males would not be willing to sacrifice their lives for their brothers. There were many cases of brothers killing each other and father and son killing each other. After seeing so many of these things, Shen Miao found it hard to believe what imperial family affection was. Perhaps there was, but she refused to believe it. "You will understand in the future." Xie Jingxing shook his head and changed the topic. "Imperial older brother is not much of a person, but is still a good emperor. It is just that to you, it is not possible to be friends." Shen Miao thought that only Xie Jingxing would be able to say such things about Emperor Yongle. "You do not need to be afraid," even if he threatens you. With me around, no one would dare to touch you. Xie Jingxing continued. Imperial sister-in-law is a good person and can be friends. In the future, if there is a chance, you can talk to her more. Shen Miao's heart moved. Xie Jingxing seemed to be explaining something to her. You are not going tomorrow? She asked. Why? Afraid to be alone? Xie Jingxing saw her frown and said, I will go with you. It is just that Imperial older brother will definitely send me away. If he said anything to you, you do not need to take it to heart and just treat it as dog fart. Shen Miao was silent for a long time. Understood. Xie Jingxing smiled and propped his chin up as he looked at her. Shan Jiaojiao. What? Feel that after you came to Longyi, you have become much more well-behaved. His eyes were full of smiles. Do not worry. Husband will not abandon you. Shen Miao took a deep breath and placed the comb on the dressing table before standing up. I am going to sleep. When are you leaving? Leave? Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows. Why would I leave my bridal chamber? Shen Miao's eyes widened and Xie Jingxing also stood up and lay down on the bed. Shen Miao, shouldn't this kind of thing be tacit? Weren't all the novels about fake couples where one would sleep in the study room and the other in the bridal chamber? How could Xie Jingxing be like this? She said, then I'll go out to sleep. Before she finished speaking, her arm was suddenly pulled by someone, and Shen Miao did not have the time to stand firm and fell onto the bed. A pair of strong arms supported her, but it just so happened that she was in his embrace. The tip of Shen Miao's nose was filled with the pleasant green bamboo scent from the man's body, but his chest was heaving up and down, and his breathing was warm. For a moment, she did not dare to look up at the other's expression. After being frozen for an unknown amount of time, Xie Jingxing's low voice sounded from above. 2 months. What? She subconsciously raised her head and met with a pair of peach blossom eyes that seemed to be smiling, yet not smiling. However, at this moment, the meaning flowing in the eyes seemed to have a strong, invasive nature, making Shen Miao's heart involuntarily beat pung pung pung. Xie Jingxing hugged her and lazily said, I will give you 2 months' time. After 2 months, I will not be able to bear it anymore. Shen Miao was startled. Xie Jingxing's lips hooked up, and his smile was evil and meaningful. He said, being a gentleman is not my hobby. I have never been a good person. Shen Miao suddenly jumped up and said, I will sleep in the study. Xie Jingxing pulled her back and said, I will sleep outside. Shen Miao did not dare to look at his eyes. Previously in Mingqi, there were still people from the Shen mansion, so Xie Jingxing did not dare to be presumptuous. Now she did not have any acquaintances in Longyi, and the most important thing was that she had no way to refuse. She and Xie Jingxing were husband and wife, and everything that she did was what she should do. Xie Jingxing pushed the door open and seemed to leave in a happy mood. Shen Miao caressed her heart, which was still beating fiercely. After Xie Jingxing left Mingqi and returned to Great Liang, he indeed became more presumptuous. It was as if when he was in the Ding capital, he still restrained some of his temper, but now he showed his original side in front of Shen Miao without any scruples. How did the husband and wife in this world get along? Shen Miao thought that in her previous lifetime, she did not know how a real husband and wife got along. Thus, in this lifetime, she had some experience in other matters, but in this matter, she was still like an ignorant child. After a long while, Shen Miao recovered to her senses and simply covered her head with the quilt and fell down. When the car arrives at the mountain, there will be a road, and when the boat arrives at the bridgehead, it will naturally be straight. Other matters would have to rely on the road of the previous lifetime, but for this matter, in this lifetime, one would grope around and let nature take its course. Chapter 884. On the morning of the second day, Shen Miao followed Xie Jingxing to the palace to see Emperor Yonglu. Because it was the first time they met, she still had to wear the prince consort great attire. When Xie Jingxing came out, Shen Miao could not help but be surprised. The Great Liang and Mingqi's attire were definitely different. The Mingqi's was more exquisite and beautiful, while the Great Liang's was more elegant. Xie Jingxing wore a purple gold robe embroidered with a qilin, an official's hat, green boots, and an agate belt, which made him look very dignified. After taking off his usual frivolous appearance, he seemed somewhat unapproachable. After Shun Miao ate with him, they rode the carriage to the imperial palace. Because of last night's matter, Shun Miao felt somewhat uncomfortable, but Xie Jingxing seemed to be very satisfied with her appearance. In the carriage, he deliberately mentioned it, and his words were quite nasty. Shun Miao thought that this person was really unscrupulous because he was in the Great Liang. But because it was the first time seeing Emperor Yonglu, her heart was somewhat heavy, but because of Xie Jingxing's jesting, she felt much more relaxed. The residence of Prince Rui was not far from the imperial palace, and one did not know if Xie Jingxing did it deliberately. When the guards at the palace gates saw Xie Jingxing, they directly let him pass. Jing Zhou and Gu Yu, as Shun Miao's top maids, followed behind her but did not dare to breathe loudly and walked carefully, afraid that they would make any rude moves and cause trouble to Shun Miao. The palace maids and eunuchs in the Great Liang Imperial Palace were all sitting with their heads down on their own matters. But when Shun Miao walked past, she could feel some probing gazes falling on her. This was the first time coming to the Great Liang Imperial Palace, and perhaps everyone had some opinions about what kind of wife Xie Jingxing had married. The common people were tolerant towards her, but it was different for those in official positions. In addition to Xie Jingxing's sensitive identity, if Shun Miao guessed correctly, the title of Rui Wangfei was something that many people were fighting for. Her every move not only represented that she was Rui Wangfei, but also represented the demeanor of the Ming Qi Shin family. Thinking like this, Shun Miao involuntarily straightened her back and became more dignified, and unconsciously brought out the Empress airs of her previous lifetime. Xie Jingxing noticed her actions and smiled playfully before whispering in her ear, "Do not need to be so nervous. You are about to outshine the Empress." Shun Miao glared at him. What time was this but Xie Jingxing was still this indecent? There were many eyes and ears in the palace, and some of them were probably Emperor Yonglu's men. If Xie Jingxing's attitude was passed to Emperor Yongli's ears, would he give her the title of femme fatale? In her previous life, she had been a courteous and obedient empress, but she had never been a demoness who brought disaster to the country. Just as she was thinking, Xie Jingxing grabbed her hand. Shun Miao subconsciously wanted to break free and said, "Let someone see." So what if others saw? Xie Jingxing was displeased. Ben Wang and Wang Fei need other people's permission to hold hands. Shun Miao still wanted to say something, but saw that she had already followed Xie Jing Su to a side hall, and there was a fat eunuch standing outside the door. When he saw both of them, he said, "Your Highness the Prince of First Rank is well. His Majesty and her Ladyship have been waiting for a long time." One did not know if it was intentional or unintentional, but he did not greet Shun Miao. "Deng Gonggong, this is this prince's beloved wife." Xie Jingxing did not want to let it go and pushed Shun Miao to the front. "Why are you not greeting?" Shun Miao rolled her eyes at Xie Jingxing in her heart. This Deng Gonggong was obviously under his master's orders to treat her like this. Who was this master? Other than Emperor Yonglu? Who else could it be? Since it was Emperor Yongli's view, not only did Xie Jingxing not go along with it, he even deliberately dug it out. Were they here to quarrel today? Deng Gonggong's smile did not change and immediately spoke according to the person. He looked at Shun Miao and said, "So it is Princess Consort. This servant has eyes but cannot see. Beg Princess Consort for forgiveness." Chapter 885. Shun Miao was different from Xie Jingxing. She smiled gently. "It is all right." Xie Jingxing glanced at eunuch Deng and said, "All right. Imperial older brother is so dissatisfied with me. Why do you still want me to come?" He then smiled. "If it was not for Wang Fei persuading me today, who would want to come and see him?" Eunuch Deng and Shun Miao pulled his sleeve. Xie Jingxing said, "What are you afraid of? You're the mistress of my residence of Prince Rui and do not need to be afraid of others. Do not be afraid. Husband will help you if anyone bullies you." He did not hide his low voice, and even the quick-witted eunuch Deng could not help but reveal an awkward expression. There was a sudden violent coughing sound in the main hall. Eunuch Deng quivered and said, "May your highness the prince and Wang Fei come in with me." Shen Miao was pulled by Xie Jingxing and followed in. She kept her head down all the way and did not raise her head. This was the etiquette for meeting the emperor for the first time. Shen Miao knew that Emperor Yongle did not like her very much. Thus, she was not willing to make any mistakes in these details and did it flawlessly. One could only see the smooth marble of the main hall carved with cloud patterns and the soft woolen blanket on top. This younger official brother greets imperial older brother. Xie Jingxing said lazily and even made a fake bow. Xie Jingxing was so presumptuous, but Shen Miao could not. She did not kneel down and bowed. "This official wife greets your majesty." "You are Shen Miao?" After a long while, a dignified and deep voice sounded. "Raise your head." Shen Miao raised her head. The man sitting on the high seat was not very old and looked to be in his 30s. He had sword-like brows, starry eyes, a high nose, and thin lips. He looked 70 to 80% similar to Xie Jingxing. But Xie Jingxing's facial features were soft, but his expression was sharp. His beauty and heroic spirit blended extremely well. As for the middle-aged man in front of her, he did not have that soft temperament due to his high position all year round. Compared to Xie Jingxing's naughtiness, he was more upright and outspoken. His eyes were deep and cold when he looked at people, as if he could see through the bottom of one's heart. Although the two brothers looked similar and were both elegant and noble, their temperaments were poles apart. Xie Jingxing looked at the young master who was like a playboy and treated everything with a frivolous laziness. However, this person was extremely harsh on himself and others and was always astute and steady. Shen Miao was surprised in her heart, as she did not expect that the wise ruler Emperor Yongle was actually so young and had such a dignified appearance. He was completely different from the half-old man with a head full of white hair she had imagined. When she was sizing up Emperor Yongle, Emperor Yongle was also sizing her up. Emperor Yongle's gaze became even sharper, bringing with it an oppressive pressure. His face was cold as if he would explode in anger at any moment. If it was an ordinary girl being sized up by him like this, she would probably be scared to tears. But Shen Miao was different from ordinary young ladies. Previously, when she was facing Fu Xiuyi, Fu Xiuyi's cold face toward her was much more than this. Seeing that she was still calm, a sharp glint flashed across Emperor Yongle's eyes. In the hall, Xie Jingxing's lazy voice was heard. "Has Imperial Brother seen enough? If I look any longer, I will feel uncomfortable." Shen Miao paused for a moment and could not hide the surprise in her heart. She had been guessing what was the relationship between Xie Jingxing and Emperor Yongle. She also faintly sensed that these two brothers should be more sincere than the imperial brothers of Mingqi, but she did not expect that Xie Jingxing dared to speak to Emperor Yongle like that. Moreover, Emperor Yongle was not angry at all. In the imperial family, there were many rules, and in addition to the subtle position they held, it was impossible to have brotherly feelings like the commoners. It was already a luxury for brothers to not harm each other and be friendly. Moreover, Xie Jingxing had been in Mingqi for so many years, but now he and Emperor Yongle were like ordinary brothers that lived together since young. Chapter 886. Jingxing. Ben Gong will also get angry if you say it like this. A smiling voice was heard, and Shen Miao's eyes landed on the female beside Emperor Yongle. One think that this was Emperor Yongle's wife, the Empress of the Great Liang, Empress Xianda. Empress Xianda looked younger than Emperor Yongle and was wearing a pomelo-colored court robe embroidered with gold with a wide belt. This attire was considered very simple, and she herself was very dignified. One look, and one could tell that she was a well-educated female from a wealthy family, intelligent and calm. She sat beside Emperor Yongle and smiled at Xie Jingxing. Shen Miao also remembered that Xie Jingxing had praised Empress Xianda before. There were not many females that could be praised by such a picky person like Xie Jingxing, and since Empress Xianda could become one of them, naturally there was something special about her. Even if Xie Jingxing did not say anything, Shen Miao also had a good impression of Empress Xianda because of her elegant and calm bearing, Even Shun Miao, who was an empress in the previous lifetime, felt ashamed of her inferiority. Jing Xing's wife, Ming Qi's Shun family's young lady. Empress Xianda nodded her head at her and smiled gently. Bin Gong had always been curious what kind of young lady could make Jing Xing change his heart. Now that one see it, one understand that Jing Xing's eyesight is not bad. Shen Miao repeatedly said that she did not dare. Empress Xianda's praises made Emperor Yong Lu dissatisfied. He glanced at Empress Xianda and seemed to be somewhat unhappy, but said in a deep voice, "The rules of Ming Qi and the Great Liang are different. Since one is married to the Great Liang's wife, one must follow the Great Liang's rules." Imperial older brother. Xie Jingxing interrupted his words. This younger brother will naturally teach him the rules. If it is not taught, Imperial older brother need not worry. This younger brother will deal with the people of Prince Rui's residence, and Imperial older brother can just take care of your own matters. Xie Jingxing was so protective of Shan Miao and did not give any face to Emperor Yong Lu in front of her. Emperor Yong Lu finally got angry and said, "You just protect your wife like this? Zhen is not allowed to say one more sentence? Do you want Zhen to let you sit in this position? Forget it." Xie Jingxing waved his hands without a care. This younger brother is not interested. This younger brother is not interested. It is not easy for this younger brother to marry a young lady, and if the wife runs away, what will this younger brother do? A lonely life? Shen Miao, if Xie Jingxing was Fu Xiuyi's brother and spoke to Fu Xiuyi like this, one feared that he would have died 8 or 10 times. Emperor Yong Lu stood up and gave Shen Miao a threatening look before he flicked his sleeves and left. Halfway through, he saw that Xie Jingxing was still standing by Shan Miao's side and did not have the slightest intention to follow, so he immediately flew into a rage. "Get over here." Xie Jingxing was helpless and said to Empress Xianda, "Imperial saw, I will leave Jiao Jiao to you." He then said to Shen Miao, "I will come and pick you up after the matter is settled." After Xie Jingxing and Emperor Yong left, Empress Xianda then smiled gently and stood up to walk to Shen Miao's side. "The room is strangely stuffy. Since you have never been to the Great Liang's imperial palace, Bangong will also bring you around." Shen Miao quickly complied. The descendants of Emperor Xianda were very good and did not have the airs of an empress. The two of them strolled around in the imperial garden. On the way, Empress Xianda asked her if she had gotten used to Longya. Her words were like an intimate eldest sister, making one's heart feel warm. Ever since Jing Xing returned to Longya, Bangong had not seen him fall in love with any young lady for the past few years. Originally, one thought that it was impossible for him to like any young lady, but one did not expect that he would marry a wife in Mingqi. Even though it was somewhat unexpected, one's heart was very comforted. Otherwise, Bangong would worry that he would not look for a young lady for the rest of his life and be alone. When Shen Miao heard it, she smiled. How would the prince of first rank be alone? When he was in Mingqi, there were many young ladies who adored him, so no matter what, he would not be alone. Chapter 887. Empress Xianda smiled and shook her head. Then have you ever seen him being especially good to anyone? Shen Miao was startled. Empress Xianda had already started to speak on her own. Jing Xing and the emperor look like different people, but in fact both brothers are the same. The emperor looks cold on the surface, and his character is also cold. Jing Xing looks gentle and easy to talk to, but in fact his character is also cold. Most likely he himself is clear that his identity is special and things that should not be thought about should not be thought about. She looked at Shen Miao and smiled. One think that Jing Xing had told you about his secret, so it is not a secret. Such a small child. From young he had to hide himself to live. Be it hiding his identity or emotions, his self-control was gradually honed, but his heart also hardened. This was a good thing for the imperial family, but it was not for him. Bangong had always thought that if Jing Xing was like the emperor, then this lifetime would be too much of a loss. Fortunately, his luck was better than the emperor's, and he met you. When Shen Miao heard Empress Xianda's words, there was some hesitation in her heart. In the short period of interaction with Empress Xianda, Empress Xianda had a temperament that made one like her at first sight. It was different from Tsang Qing, who deliberately fawned on her. Empress Sienda was the kind that quietly moisturized and made one feel comfortable. She seemed to live very realistically and was not like a female in the harem. But what did she mean when she said that Xie Jingxing's luck was better than Emperor Yongli's? This was too difficult to answer, so Shan Miao could only quietly listen and not speak. His Majesty had a very deep entrustment for Jingxing, Empress Sienda said. He hoped that Jingxing would be able to live comfortably and happily, but did not wish for Jingxing to change his original intention because of a covetous and comfortable life. His Majesty had a hard time, so if His Majesty hurt you because of this, one must not blame him. Shun Miao smiled gently. This official's wife is not qualified to blame His Majesty's decision. It is just that. She looked at Empress Sienda. Does Empress have something to say to this official's wife? Empress Sienda smiled and sighed. Just now when I first saw you, Bin Gong felt that you have a familiar feeling. You are a smart young lady. Bin Gong know that, but smart people easily see things as rigid. If one does not untie it, the knot in one's heart would never be untied. Shen Miao slightly frowned. She faintly felt that Empress Xianda's words had a hidden meaning. His Majesty thinks highly of Jingxing. Although His Majesty has agreed to Jingxing's marriage, he is still unhappy. Jingxing naturally has ways to resist His Majesty's decision, but you are different. You are a Ming Qi's young lady, and in the Great Liang, there will be many restrictions. Empress Xianda said, Bin Gong likes you very much, but Bin Gong is also His Majesty's wife. Bin Gong cannot change His Majesty's decision. I only hope that you can be more comfortable. Shen Miao said, What matter does your Majesty want to do? Empress Sienda was about to speak when a charming female voice came from behind her. Jie is in a good mood today. You actually came to stroll in the Imperial Garden. Shen Miao and the Empress turned their heads at the same time and saw that from the other side of the garden, a few palace maids were escorting a female in palace attire as they walked out. This female was dressed in silver, vermilion, purple, and gold with a group of phoenixes and an agate jade necklace on her head. It was the height of spring, and her dressing was even more gorgeous than the spring sun. When he got closer, he found that this woman was also beautiful, but he didn't know if it was because of her gorgeous attire that made her seem a little impetuous. She came over and bewitchingly bowed to Empress Sienda, but had a somewhat indifferent look, as if she did not place Empress Sienda in her eyes. Oh, so is consort Jing's younger sister. Empress Sienda replied in an indifferent manner. Chapter 888. Shen Miao pondered. This imperial concubine Jing looked to be in her early 20s, but she could be called a concubine. Either her family was very prominent, or she was very favored. But Shen Miao felt that compared to Empress Sienda, other than being younger and more beautiful, this imperial concubine Jing's temperament was much less than Empress Sienda's. She really couldn't see how she was worthy of Emperor Yongli's favor. That imperial concubine Jing seemed to have just noticed Shen Miao and asked, This one is very unfamiliar. Which foos foreign is she? Shen Miao was now dressed as a married woman and combed her hair. Because of this, even though her face was tender, no one would think that she was an unmarried young miss of an official's family. This is Prince Rui's foreign, Rui Qinwang Fei. Empress Sienda didn't seem to want to introduce Shan Miao to Imperial concubine Jing and said simply. When she said this, Imperial concubine Jing's expression changed. When she heard this, she first called out in surprise, Rui Qinwang Fei. Then she examined Shen Miao from top to bottom. Unlike Emperor Yongli's sharp examination, not to mention Empress Sienda's kind observation, this one's gaze was very rude, as though she was examining something. After she finished looking, she snorted and said in a neutral tone, Originally, I thought that you were a great beauty that would make Rui Qinwang travel thousands of miles to marry you back to Liang. Now, she smiled harshly. It's probably my eyes that are not good. I really can't see anything special. Shen Miao didn't know what relationship she had with this one, so she was cautious and didn't speak. Empress Sienda's expression became cold. She said, There are very few people that Imperial concubine Jing can see as special. Shun Miao was surprised that Empress Xianda would get angry at Imperial concubine Jing for her. She also felt that this Empress Xianda was similar to Emperor Yongle. But Empress Xianda's mocking words didn't have any effect. She didn't know if Imperial concubine Jing understood. Imperial concubine Jing looked at Shan Miao and suddenly smiled, saying, "It seems that Jiejia has a good relationship with Rui, Qin Wang Fei, and came to visit the garden together. I wonder if Jiejia is whispering something to Rui, Qin Wang Fei. You should say something. Rui Qin Wang Fei has just arrived and doesn't know many things." Shen Miao looked at concubine Jing. Concubine Jing chuckled and said, "That makes sense. Lord Rui is so busy every day. How could he have time to talk about the great Liang with consort Rui? Speaking of which, a few days ago, my fourth sister asked when His Highness Lord Rui would come back. She said that she had learned a piece of music and wanted His Highness Lord Rui to give her some pointers." Xianda Empress said angrily, "Jing Fei." Realization dawned on Shun Miao. She was wondering why concubine Jing would target her for no reason. So that was the reason. Thinking of how Xie Jingxing was liked by the ladies in Mingqi into Liang with the identity of the Rui king, there would be endless girls. Now that she had just arrived, she was already hated by others. Concubine Jing looked at Shun Miao with a smile and said, "If consort Rui has nothing to do, you can invite my fourth sister to the manor. My fourth sister likes to make friends. If consort Rui has nothing to do, it's good to have more sisters." Multiple sisters? Shun Miao sneered in her heart. It was more like having more sisters in the inner courtyard. She originally wanted to deal with it lightly, but when her eyes landed on the white jade thumb ring that Xie Jingxing put on for her, Shun Miao suddenly changed her mind. She smiled and said, "I'm afraid that won't do." Concubine Jing was stunned, and Xianda Empress was also stunned. She didn't think that Shun Miao would say that. His Highness has handed over everything in the Rui King's manor to me to manage, from the large silver to the small business, the servants and guards. I'm so busy that I'm afraid there won't be time to entertain guests. Shin Miao smiled gently and seemed to be slightly apologetic. This subject's wife is a newcomer, and His Highness trusts this subject's wife. This subject's wife doesn't dare to disappoint. If fourth miss likes, you can go and find His Highness. This subject's wife doesn't have the time. Chapter 889. These words made Jing Fei speechless, but there was a ball of fire in her heart. Shin Miao's words looked warm and gentle, saying that she did not have time to accompany guests, but in fact it was a blatant show-off. Look, Prince Rui doted on her so much that he let Shin Miao take care of everything in the prince residence. This was naturally because the prince residence only had Shin Miao as a female master, but if he did not dote on one person, there was no need to hand over all the shops, servants, and guards to her, right? If this went on, it would be better to say that Rui Wang Fei was also managing Prince Rui. Rui Wang Fei was using different ways to show off how high her position in the prince residence was. Shin Miao was busy with official matters and secretly trampled on Jing Fei's fourth younger sister. She had nothing to do all day and ran to other people's residence to cause trouble. It was really not considered as virtuous. The corner of Empress Xianda's lips slightly rose. Jing Fei was so angry that her face turned green. But Shun Miao usually did not make enemies with others, especially when she was unfamiliar with the place and people. It was just that at this time Jing Fei provoked the anger in her heart, and if she did not fiercely turn the tables, wouldn't everyone be able to step on her head in the future? The timing, location, and people were all right, and there was also Xie Jingxing supporting her from behind. If she were to give way, she would be a fool. Shin Miao smiled gently. One heard that a kind-hearted female would be the most sympathetic. Jing Fei is so worried that this official's wife would be lonely and want to find sisters to accompany this official's wife. One think that you would feel the same way. Most likely that Jing Fei would also have lonely times. It would be better to find a few sisters to sit in the palace in the future. That way Jing Fei would be much happier. Jing Fei was so angry that she almost could not breathe. Shen Miao's words were right. Jing Fei wanted Shen Miao to invite her fourth younger sister to sit in the residence and wanted her to have more sisters in the inner courtyard. Shen Miao was also a clever person and immediately returned the favor and let Jing Fei have a few more sisters in the palace. Jing Fei gritted her teeth in hatred. She was in the prime of her youth, but a few years had passed. There were so many beauties that entered the palace every year, and the favor of the emperor was the most precious. If there were a few more sisters that could cause the downfall of nations, how would she live? This Rui Wang Fei has such a sharp mouth. Empress Xianda smiled and said, "So Jing Fei Mimi is lonely. This is easy to handle. Tomorrow, I will mention to His Majesty that the palace is a bit quiet these days." It's time to add a few new sisters. Jing Fei instantly panicked and said, "Not lonely. I'm not lonely." Empress Xianda's position as the empress was stable. It naturally didn't matter to her if there were a few more sisters. But Jing Fei was at a time when she was favored. It was terrifying that she would be divided. Shen Miao was grateful that Empress Xianda pushed the boat with the current. Even though she knew that Empress Xianda was only saying it, she still said seriously, "Consort Jing should not decline. Since one is considerate towards this subject's wife should return the favor." She said it as if Consort Jing should thank her. Someone's chuckle came from not too far away. The few of them turned around and saw Emperor Yonglu and Xie Jingxing standing at the back of the garden. As they were hidden by the bushes, they did not notice the two of them. They did not know how long they had been listening. Emperor Yongli's expression was cold, and one could not tell if he was happy or angry. He only said blandly, "Prince Rui, this wife of yours is born with a sharp tongue." In the end, he was somewhat unhappy. It seemed that Shen Miao and Empress Xianda deliberately teasing Jing Fei had been heard. Jing Fei ran towards Emperor Yonglu, feeling wronged. "Your Majesty." Xie Jingxing walked over and patted Shen Miao's head, as if he was praising the white tiger cub in his backyard. He said in a gratified voice, "Jiao Jiao is really sensible and knows to take the initiative to care about other people's feelings." He then swept a glance at Emperor Yonglu. Since Jing Fei wants sisters, then imperial older brother should comply. It is not like the palace cannot afford to raise idle people. When Jing Fei heard this, her heart was anxious and flustered. She bit her lips as she looked at Emperor Yonglu, putting on a pitiful appearance. Shen Miao wanted to laugh. Jing Fei came brandishing her claws, but was a brainless one. Now, it seemed like they were ganging up to bully Jing Fei. She did not know why Emperor Yonglu would support such a woman. Emperor Yonglu said, "Since when do you have to care about Zhen's matters? Isn't imperial older brothers, Fei, also managing this subject's Wang Fei?" Xie Jingxing raised an eyebrow as he looked at Jing Fei. He was born handsome and romantic, always smiling lazily. The womenfolk in the palace also liked his romantic appearance, but in their hearts, they all knew that this Prince Rui was not someone to be trifled with. His gaze was sharp and his tone was calm, but it made people feel cold. He said, "Jing Fei, are you sure you want Ben Wang to listen to your fourth sister play?" Jing Fei shivered. Chapter 890. This consort Jing was used to being tyrannical in the palace, and even though she was arrogant and brainless, no one dared to touch her. Even Empress Xianda was too lazy to bother with her. Today she did not expect that she would stumble at Shen Miao's hands, or rather, she stumbled at Prince Rui's hands. No matter how eloquent Shen Miao was, Consort Jing had the ability to punish her, even if it was just to find a crime. But Prince Rui was not someone that she could afford to offend. When Prince Rui just came to Longyi, the officials in the court were all against it and tried to trip him up. Everyone looked at his mischievous and lazy appearance and thought that he was just a devil incarnate, who knew that in just 2 years, the officials could not wait to avoid him, like a mouse seeing a cat, and did not dare to provoke him. Consort Jing's father also warned her not to be enemies with Prince Rui. No matter how arrogant Consort Jing was, she would not dare to go against Prince Rui. Even Emperor Yonglu could not do anything to Prince Rui. much less her and consort. She forced a smile. Your Highness Prince Rue is very busy and would not have the time to listen to fourth younger sisters playing. She then looked towards Emperor Yong Lu with a pleading gaze. This consort will teach fourth younger sister in the future. Your Highness Prince Rue must not mind. This prince does not have the time to mind. Xie Jingxing smiled and held Shun Miao's shoulders. Consort also does not have the free time. If Consort Jing is free, it is better to think of sharing Imperial older brother's worries. Consort Jing bit her lips and looked awkwardly at Emperor Yong Lu. Emperor Yong Li's expression sank. No matter what, Xie Jingxing had repeatedly humiliated his consort, which made him unhappy. Perhaps he did not mind in the past, but now he did not wish for Xie Jingxing to stand up for Shun Miao. How could he spoil her like this? He coldly asked Shun Miao, Consort Rue, this is also your intention? Shun Miao meekly bowed her head. The wife follows the husband. Empress Xianda looked at Shun Miao with some surprise, as if she did not expect that Shun Miao would be so unyielding when blocking Emperor Yong Lu. She suddenly thought of something and shook her head with a smile. When Emperor Yong Lu heard this, he silently stared at Shun Miao for a long time. His gaze could be said to be somewhat fierce, just that Shun Miao lowered her head. Not knowing if she was acting dumb or did not see it, she always looked down gently, ignoring such a gaze. Xie Jingxing directly pulled Shun Miao up and said, If Imperial older brother does not have anything else to instruct, this younger brother will leave first. He said, being newly married, both of us husband and wife have many things to do. Shun Miao, Monarch Yong Lu said, Remember my words. Xie Jingxing said with a smile that was not a smile, oh. It was just that the word oh didn't seem to mean that he took Emperor Yong Li's words to heart. After Shun Miao and Xie Jingxing left, Emperor Yong Lu seemed to be very unhappy. With a wave of his sleeve, he didn't even bother with Empress Xianda and Jing Fei as he left. Empress Xianda and Jing Fei knew that Emperor Yong Lu was angry and didn't follow. Jing Fei looked at Empress Xianda and said, Older sister and consort Rue's relationship is rather good. Just now you kept on speaking for her. If one did not know, one would think that both of you already know each other. Consort Rue is knowledgeable and sensible, intelligent and virtuous. Naturally, one is likable. Empress Xianda said with a smile. But older sister must not forget that she is a Ming Qi's person. Jing Fei said fiercely. Who knows what Ming Qi's people are planning to come to the Great Liang? Older sister must help her and not drag yourself into the water in the future. When His Majesty blames, even older sister will be blamed. Since one married to the Great Liang, one is a Great Liang person. Could it be that Jing Fei also suspect the residence of Prince Rue? Consort Rue and Prince Rue are husband and wife and are one body. In terms of tongues, how could Jing Fei be Empress Xianda's opponent? Chapter 891. Jing Fei sneered. Older sister still knows how to speak. It seems that you also trust Consort Rue so much. It seems that you will definitely stand on Consort Rue's side. Empress Xianda declined to comment. But what to do? Jing Fei suddenly smiled. Older sister can help her for a while, but cannot help her for a lifetime. There will not only be one female in the residence of Prince Rue. Even if my fourth younger sister does not have a chance, there will always be someone who has a chance. Looking at Empress Xianda's face, Jing Fei said, His Majesty can see that he does not like that Consort Rue. Empress Xianda said, The matters of the residence of Prince Rue is not something that you and I can intervene in. Prince Rue has his own plans. Younger sister also does not dare to volunteer. Jing Fei smiled. One just want to advise older sister. Older sister is not a bodhisattva. Even if one is so kind that one would want to help, one still need to see if one has the ability. Older sister's today is Consort Rue's tomorrow. Finishing, it was as if she had gotten back her previous position as she proudly raised her head and left with the maids. The gentle smile on Empress Xianda's lips gradually sank, and a trace of worry flashed in her eyes. In the carriage, Shun Miao asked, What did the Emperor talk to you about? Some trivial matters of the court. Xie Jingxing said. Shun Miao knew that if it was a trivial matter, Emperor Yonglu would not specially call Xie Jingxing over talk. Without thinking, she could guess that it must be related to her. Today, Emperor Yongli's attitude had already explained that he did not like Shun Miao and did not like Xie Jingxing to value Shun Miao. Perhaps it was because Shun Miao's identity was too sensitive, or perhaps Emperor Yonglu had a better choice. Seeing that Shun Miao did not speak, Xie Jingxing turned his head and pinched her face. But today you made me look at you in a different light. It seems that one had not seen such a fierce look for a long time. Fierce? Shun Miao asked in reply. Otherwise? Xie Jingxing sighed and said, as if he was reminiscing, at the beginning in Mingqi, when I saw you in Wulong Temple, I thought that the young lady of the Shun family was really fierce. One did not know which young master would be unlucky to marry such a tigress back. Shun Miao looked at him calmly. Do you want to quarrel? Xie Jingxing's lips curled up as he said, That's right. This is how my Xie family should be. Shun Miao was interrupted by him, and the displeasure that Xie Jingxing concealed from Emperor Yongli's words disappeared. She said, It is fine if you do not tell me what the emperor told you. But what kind of person is Jing Fei? His Majesty seems to dote on her a lot, but she deliberated over her words. I don't see anything special about her. Xie Jingxing almost laughed out. Previously, Consort Jing said that Shun Miao did not look special, and now she returned it back in its original form. She really held a grudge. He said, Consort Jing is General Lu's eldest daughter. General Lu is equivalent to your Shun family's position in Mingqi. Shun family Shun is to to the Shun to 1. To Liang, Shaoxing Shun, Shun I, Liang the Fei, Fei Ming, the Ming to the Fei, the Ming, I the Xing the king. To each two, Shun to Wei. Two. Liang is to is. The is. Liang is. To. When Xie Jingxing spoke to hear, a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. Looking at Fei Jing's attitude in the inner palace, one would know what kind of attitude the Lu family has in Longyi. Shun Miao said, the women in the inner palace did not just represent a single woman. They also maintained the family's reputation and strength. The women in the harem often represented more than just a woman. They also maintained the reputation and strength of a family. The women in the inner palace represented more than just a woman. They also maintained the family's reputation and strength. It would not be enough to just rely on pampering. Just like her in the previous lifetime, if not for the Shun family behind her, Fu Xiu, you would not even take a look at her. The reason why Mei Foren could give birth to Fu Sheng, who was close to the crown prince, other than Mei Foren's own means, it was also because of her brilliant and outstanding brother who earned a lot of meritorious services. Chapter 892. Thinking of Mei Foren, Shun Miao was suddenly startled. In the previous lifetime, Mei Foren appeared after Fu Xiu ascended the throne a few years later when she went to the Qin country. In this lifetime, one did not know if Fu Xiu would go on an expedition to the east, but Shun Miao had already come to the Great Liang. Would Mei Foren still appear? Xie Jingxing did not notice that Shun Miao was distracted and praised. Not bad. Jing Fei is arrogant and the Lu family is arrogant. Imperial Xiong has the intention to suppress them, but he has to take it slow. Is there no checks and balances? Shun Miao asked. Xie Jingxing shook his head. The Lu family is the late emperor's people. The remaining people of the late emperor have already been cleaned up by imperial older brother. Other than these two families, there was also the military general Lu family and the civil official Yi family. The Lu and Yi families had deep foundations and many henchmen. If they were to be uprooted, it would only hurt the royal family's foundation. Imperial brother, you can't be too hasty. They also know this, which is why they dare to be so fearless. Shun Miao frowned. Xie Jingxing and Emperor Yonglu were biological brothers, and the late emperor was their biological father. Why did Xie Jingxing call him late emperor and not imperial father? Moreover, like what Xie Jingxing said, The Lu and Yi families were the people of the late emperor. Even though it was a change of ruler and a change of courtiers, but Emperor Yongle was the legitimate successor to the throne, and these two generations of elders should do their best to support him. Why was it that the Lu and Yi families were so ambitious, and Emperor Yongle had the intention to suppress them? Could it be that the late emperor was unwilling to see Emperor Yongle rule the country? Or did the Lu and Yi families become disloyal after the death of the late emperor? Shen Miao was sensitive to some secret matters. Suddenly, he felt that it was somewhat ridiculous. In Mingqi, the Shun and Xie families were honest and dutiful, but the imperial family was suspicious, and even if the Shun and Xie families did not have any daughters in the palace, the imperial family still tried their best to suppress them. When they arrived at Great Liang, the situation was completely reversed. The treacherous officials were arrogant, but the imperial family had no choice but to compromise and slowly plan. Which family does the Empress belong to? Shen Miao asked. It is the Ku family. Xie Jingxing said. The Ku family is a historian. Shen Miao was surprised for a moment. Official historian. Official historian has light authority and no real power. The emperor is willing to marry official historian's family's young lady and even made her the empress. It is evident that he loves the empress very much. Xie Jingxing declined to comment. But, she then said, since there is the empress in your heart, why did you allow Jing Fei to be disrespectful to the empress? Since Jing Fei dared to be disrespectful to the empress, it was clear that she was influenced by the emperor. If Emperor Yongle loved the empress, then because of his love for the empress, no matter how arrogant Jing Fei was, she wouldn't dare to be disrespectful to the empress. But since Jing Fei dared to rudely argue with the empress, she clearly knew that Emperor Yongle wouldn't blame her for this. Since he wasn't willing to marry her for the sake of power, why couldn't he do the simplest thing of protecting her? Xie Jingxing smiled faintly. Imperial older brother and I are different. He then caressed her head. Imperial saw, and you are also different. Shen Miao waved his hand away and said, so the fourth young lady of the Lu family is in love with you? Xie Jingxing was startled before smiling. Why are you still jealous? But there is one thing that is very strange. Shen Miao said to herself, if the Lu family want to control the court or show their ambition, they have already sent a daughter into the palace, and the goal has been achieved, so why send another young lady over? Moreover, Shen Miao looked at him. Even if it was sent, why send it to you? You're only Prince Rue and not the emperor. The daughter of the Lu family would not want to control all the imperial brothers in the palm of her hand, right? She was stunned when she looked up. Xie Jingxing looked at her deeply, and she could not understand the meaning in his eyes. Before she could ask, Xie Jingxing had already pulled her to the front, and his hands were around her waist. He buried his head on Shen Miao's shoulder and half-hugged her. Chapter 893. His low, grumbling voice with a smile was heard by her ear. If this goes on, I will not have any secrets in front of you. Secrets? Shen Miao's heart moved. What did she say correctly? You still have secrets from me? She deliberately asked. Don't you also have secrets from me? Xie Jingxing said. She paused, and Xie Jingxing let go of his hand and stared at her eyes. His lips hooked up, but his eyes were firmly locked onto her, making her somewhat breathless. He said, how about exchanging? My secret to exchange for your secret? Shen Miao's heart fiercely shook, but she quickly reacted and turned her head away. I do not want to know your secret. Xie Jingxing made an O sound and smiled. Anyway, you have the ability to find it yourself, right? Shen Miao turned her head back and looked at him without saying a word. Xie Jingxing lazily said, my secret, you have the ability to find it yourself. Your secret, do you think that I do not know? Shen Miao was somewhat flustered in a moment. She had a secret from her previous lifetime, but she did not have the courage to say it to anyone. Even if it was Shun Xiao, Shen Xian, or Luo Shuiyin, she still kept silent and did not dare to reveal a trace of it. Not to mention the matter of the strange powers and gods. Others would think that she was crazy. She was only afraid that no one would believe it if she said it, and was even more afraid that others would look at her with a strange gaze. Would they blame her she was too stupid and cowardly, causing the death of her own children and family? Shen Miao did not dare to try. Then if Xie Jingxing knew that she had married before and became Fu Xiuyi's wife, and had contributed to Fu Xiuyi's empire, how would he look at her? Shen Miao once thought that she did not care how others looked at her. But at this moment, she suddenly felt some fear. She did not want Xie Jingxing to look at her like an enemy. Her strange expression was seen by Xie Jingxing. Xie Jingxing's eyes deepened, but he sighed softly and hugged her again. I do not like to be forced. If you do not want others to know, I will not ask, he said, but do not let me wait for too long. After returning to the residence of Prince Rui, Xie Jingxing quickly went out again. He always had a lot of things, so Shen Miao did not question further. Now she was not even clear about the layout of the Great Liang, and after Xie Jingxing explained to her about the Lu and Yi families in the carriage, it made her realize that there was no difference between the Great Liang and Mingqi. Although on the surface, it seemed that the country was prosperous and the people were strong and peaceful, but hidden under the peace, there were probably more undercurrents surging. Because the Great Liang's country was bigger, correspondingly, the ambition of the people below was also bigger. After all, Emperor Yonglu and Xie Jingxing's attitude towards their father was also very strange. There seemed to be a lot of origins involved in this. Shen Miao remembered that when she first met Xie Jingxing in Mingqi, Xie Jingxing seemed to be searching for something several times. When she was in the general's mansion, she even happened to see the fire she threw in the ancestral hall. In the secret chamber of Prince Yu residence, Xie Jingxing and Gao Yang seemed to have obtained something. But what was that thing? Shen Miao originally thought that it was the military defense map, but thinking that the military defense map would most likely not be placed in the general's residence, in Prince Yu residence's secret chamber. As for what it was, she did not know. As she thought about it, she thought of another matter. Pei Lang followed Xie Jingxing's troops all the way to the Great Liang, and the main reason for him to come to the Great Liang was to avoid Fu Xiuyi's pursuit. Luing was also brought along. Luing was easy to settle, but Pei Lang, even though Pei Lang looked modest, he was actually proud and arrogant. Originally, it was because of Luing that he worked for her, but after being suspected by Fu Xiuyi, he risked his life to protect her. This made Shen Miao have no other reason to ask Pei Lang to do anything for her. Chapter 894. Finally, Shen Miao stood up and walked out of the room, deciding to talk to Pei Lang face to face. Pei Lang's room was arranged in the last room on the east side of the residence of Prince Rui, and the environment was not bad. The residence of Prince Rui was very big, and it was not difficult to make room for a courtyard. Thus, Pei Lang's treatment was not bad. It was just that one did not know if it was intentional or unintentional, but it was opposite to Shen Miao's place and became the furthest distance in the entire residence of Prince Rui. When Shen Miao came to Pei Lang's courtyard, Pei Lang was sitting in the courtyard playing chess, and beside him stood two green-clad maids. Both of them were beautiful like the moon and the flowers. Both of them were pouring tea for Pei Lang from time to time, and their eyes would occasionally land on Pei Lang. Even though it was restrained, there was an inexplicable feeling flowing in their eyes. When this scene fell into Shen Miao's eyes, she felt that it was very strange. She stopped her footsteps and looked at it from afar, but her mind was thinking about the matters of the past lifetime. In the past lifetime, Pei Lang had unlimited talent, and after Fu Xiuyi ascended to the throne, he supported him to be the country's tutor. Pei Lang himself was also handsome and proud, and would often wear a green robe. He had a modest and aloof look and indeed had some sage-like demeanor. The officials knew that he was deeply trusted by Fu Xiuyi and did not dare to be enemies with him. In the entire Mingqi, Pei Lang was considered to be very famous. But he was also very young and looked very good. Fu Xiuyi once tried to bestow a minister's daughter to him as a wife, but was tactfully declined by Pei Lang. Such a talented person most likely had his own temperament and was a sentimental person. Fu Xiuyi thought that Pei Lang would not like to be arranged by others, and thus followed him. Before Shen Miao went to the Qin country to be a hostage, Her relationship with Pei Lang was not bad, and she once asked him if he had a young lady that he admired. At that time, how did Pei Lang answer? Shen Miao's expression was somewhat absent-minded. Pei Lang said, "Your ladyship, this official's ambition is not here." These 4 words, "not here," seemed to be the opposite of the South and the North, but in fact it clearly showed some of Pei Lang's attitude. Pei Lang's temperament was very rational, so rational that when he helped Fu Xiu-yi to make a decision, he would eliminate any possibility of emotions to ensure that there would not be any accidents in the outcome. Speaking of which, until Shen Miao died in the past lifetime, Pei Lang was always alone, and there was no news of any young lady that he admired. Now that Pei Lang was standing with the 2 females, Shen Miao was somewhat absent-minded. Even when he was in Guangwan Tang, Pei Lang relied on his charm to attract a group of female students. Now, that his age was just right, it made people think more. As Shen Miao was thinking like this, the maid beside Pei Lang, who was fanning the butterflies and flying insects, saw Shen Miao and was first startled before quickly bowing. "This servant greets Wang Fei." The other maidservant in green also hurriedly bowed. Pei Lang raised his head and saw Shen Miao. Shen Miao smiled as she walked over and said to the 2 green-clad maids, "Both of you can leave." The maidservants looked at Pei Lang with some difficulty. Pei Lang waved his hand, and the 2 maidservants retreated. Shen Miao looked at the back of the 2 graceful figures, and a rare mischievous feeling rose up in her heart towards Pei Lang. She asked, "It is rare to see gentlemen Pei being so romantic. One can add fragrance to one's red sleeves." The 2 maids looked at Pei Lang with unconcealable admiration in their eyes. Pei Lang shook his head and smiled bitterly, but did not refute. One had to bow one's head under the eaves. These 2 maids were sent by the residents of Prince Rue, and if it was in the past, Pei Lang would definitely think of ways to get rid of these undisguised servants and would not keep them by his side. But this was not Ming Qi, and the other party were not his servants, and he did not know if it was Xie Jingxing's idea. No matter how much he did not like it, Pei Lang could only endure it. Chapter 895. It was just that seeing that Shen Miao did not seem to be affected at all, Pei Lang could not help but feel a slight sourness in his heart. Teacher, following me to Great Liang was an action of helplessness. Shen Miao said, "Now it has become a situation of neither up nor down. What plans do you have in the future?" She paused for a moment. In the beginning, regarding Lu Ying's matter, it was I who forced Teacher to do it. Teacher had no other choice and implicated Teacher to leave one's hometown. Teacher is really guilty. If Teacher wants to leave, it is also possible. Hearing that, Pei Lang looked at Shen Miao with some surprise. All along, when Shen Miao faced him, she had a feeling of being in the right. And from the beginning, when she used Lu Ying to threaten Pei Lang had faintly sensed that Shen Miao had some kind of subtle feeling towards him. It was like hostility, but it was not only hostility. Pei Lang had also investigated carefully due to his doubts, but at the end he still did not know anything. But now that Shen Miao was facing him, there was no hostility. It was as if she had let go of something. It was very peaceful, but it made Pei Lang somewhat disappointed and frustrated. It was as if something special had vanished with Shen Miao putting it down. Shen Miao looked at Pei Lang, and her heart was somewhat moved. She had always defined Pei Lang as a person who owed her a lot, but on that day, when Xie Jingxing said that Pei Lang was locked up in Fu Xiu-yi's dungeon and was tortured but did not confess that she was the person behind the scenes, her view of some matters was different. Shen Miao knew how Fu Xiu-yi punished the traitors, and in that situation, Pei Lang did not confess her identity. Thus Shen Miao could not say what kind of feeling she had. Now thinking about it, the reason why she hated Pei Lang and had so much resentment towards Pei Lang was because Pei Lang had always stood on Fu Xiu-yi's side. And when Fu Xiu-yi dealt with their Shun family, Pei Lang chose to look on with folded arms. Even when the crown prince was deposed, he did not say a single word for Fu Ming and did not attempt to stop Wan Yu's marriage. But in this world, it was sentiment for someone to help you, and it was one's duty to not help you. Pei Lang's relationship with her, no matter what, had not reached the point of must help. As for this lifetime, Pei Lang was no longer Fu Xiuyi's people and even became enemies with Fu Xiuyi, so there was no reason for him to seek shelter. Thus, there was no need to persevere with those unreconciled feelings. In the end, one had to rely on oneself for revenge. Pure hatred and resentment were of no use. Pei Lang suppressed the disappointment in his heart and said, "What plans do you have for the future?" Shen Miao was startled. Me? Pei Lang's eyes became clear again, as if he had returned to that incomparably vigilant nation tutor. He said, "The location of the residence of Prince Rue seems to not be as invincible as it looks on the surface. I think there are some variables in the great Liang imperial family." He looked at Shen Miao. "Even if the imperial family of the great Liang has nothing to do with me, and the residents of Prince Rue also have ways to protect themselves, but your road might not be smooth." Shen Miao frowned slightly. "It's true. Sir, when you talk about this, I can lend you a hand," Pei Lang said. Shen Miao, "Sir, although I can't be considered a genius, I can still do what I can. Lu Ying and I are currently relying on you to gain a foothold in the Great Liang. Only when you live better and your footsteps are more stable would we be able to live better. Even for my own sake, I must help you. I want to stay in the residence of Prince Rue." He paused for a moment. "If I can also participate in the Great Liang's matters, or some of your matters for me to give advice, perhaps it would be better." After being silent for a long time, Shen Miao then said, "Sir Pei, you better think it through. You do not owe me anything, so there is no need to tie your life with mine. There is no need to rely on me. Based on your abilities, you can also live well. Not to mention those excuses, you're not a person who chases after fame and fortune." Pei Lang smiled bitterly in his heart. Shen Miao seemed to understand him very well, even more than he understood himself. Even he himself did not know when he had this inexplicable obsession, but he stubbornly did not want to draw a clear line with her. He said, "My choice is this." Shen Miao took a deep breath, and just as she was about to speak, she saw Jingzhe walking in from outside. One did not know where she took out a beautifully decorated invitation. "Foreign, Kai Xia banquet invitation has been sent over, saying that it is Prince Rue's consort. This servant will receive this invitation. Foreign can take a look." Shen Miao just came to the Great Liang, and someone came to send an invitation. This was her first time appearing in the circle of Long Ye's noble furens, so it was obvious that the other party had ulterior motives. She asked, "Who sent the invitation?" "Long Ye's general pavilion. Lu Foreign sent it." Shen Miao's movements paused. The Wan Yi family and the Wu Lu family, the two great aristocratic families of the Great Liang, seemed to have a very subtle relationship with the imperial family. It was indeed an unkind intention. Chapter 896. That night, Xie Jingxing returned, and Shen Miao told Xie Jingxing about the invitation. Xie Jingxing then told Shen Miao that if she did not want to go, she could decline. Even though the Lu and Yi families were arrogant, they did not dare to shed all pretense of cordiality with the residents of Prince Rue. In other words, Shen Miao had the right to refuse. Even though she said it like that, Shen Miao did not want to refuse. Know yourself and know the enemy, and you will be victorious in 100 battles. Currently, she knew nothing about the situation of the Great Liang and could take this opportunity to understand more. Putting aside the Yi family, the Lu family's intentions towards her could be seen clearly from this incident. Xie Jingxing naturally would not stop Shen Miao's decision. After the husband and wife discussed for a while, Shen Miao got someone to reply to the invitation, saying that she would be punctual for the appointment. 2 days later, it was the day of the Caixia banquet. Shen Miao woke up early, and when she was eating, Xie Jingxing was no longer in the residence. It seemed that after returning to the Great Liang, he was very busy every day and would leave early in the day and return home at night. This imperial city was not as peaceful as it looked on the surface, and Shen Miao deeply agreed. Jingzhe combed Shen Miao's hair. After she came to the residence of Prince Rue, for convenience, she still used her own personal maid. Speaking of which, there were very few women in the prince's fu. Other than the kitchen maids and a few nannies, the rest were all men. Heard from Uncle Tang, that after Xie Jingxing returned to the Great Liang 2 years ago and was conferred the title of Qinhuang, he had caught a few spies dressed as maids in the Qinhuang residence. He probably felt that the more women there were, the more trouble there would be, and the easier it would be for people with bad intentions to take advantage of them. In the end, the entire prince's residence simply stopped adding more women. However, it was precisely because of this that the prince's mansion was like an impenetrable fortress. For so long, the people outside were jealous and envious, but they couldn't find an exit. Guyu said, "This is Foreign's first time attending a banquet in Longyi, so one must dress up beautifully." When others see Foreign like this, they would not say anything more, and Foreign would definitely give our Ming-Chi face. In Longyi, Xie Jingxing was considered to be very awe-inspiring. When Jingzhe and Guyu went out to buy things, they heard people discussing that it was Shen Miao who had accumulated good fortune in her previous life that she was able to marry Prince Rui in this lifetime. Jingzhe and Guyu were extremely unconvinced when they heard it. How was their family's young lady bad? Even in Ming-Chi's Ding capital, she was one of the top young ladies. Not to mention that she was intelligent, her temperament was also kind, and her bearing was not inferior to a princess. How could it be said that she was climbing up? However, one's mouth could not win against others, so one might as well use facts to slap one's face. Guyu thought that this time, when Shen Miao went to shock everyone, those people would no longer make irresponsible remarks. "Why do you mind that?" Shen Miao laughed in spite of herself. "They said that it was to make their hearts feel better and would not affect us." Foreign, what Guyu said is right. Jingzhe was picking hairpins for Shen Miao from the jeweler box, as she said, "The limelight cannot fall below others." Just as they were speaking, one heard Uncle Tang knocking on the door from outside. Shen Miao motioned for him to come in and saw a young female following behind Uncle Tang. She looked to be younger than Shen Miao and was slightly plump. Most likely it was because of her young age, but she was extremely likable with a pair of smiling eyes, and her lips were wide open, white and tender. In a moment, Shen Miao thought of Su Minglang, but it was a female. "Today Foreign is going to Kai Xia's banquet." Uncle Tang smiled. Young master had instructed to find a familiar person for Foreign to give pointers. This old servant went to bring Ba Jiao young lady over. Foreign will bring Ba Jiao young lady along as a maid, so that if one were to meet an unknown person, Ba Jiao young lady would explain to you. Shen Miao smiled, thanking Uncle Tang. Chapter 897. Uncle Tang repeatedly waved his hands and said that he did not dare and only smiled. Initially thought that Foreign would not accept the invitation, but did not expect that Foreign would accept it. Foreign has such courage. This old servant admires. When an ordinary person came to a completely unfamiliar place, their heart would always be a little timid. Not to mention an official's young lady. Even if it was a courageous person, when one just arrived, one would need a lot of courage to go to a place full of strangers when one was not familiar with the environment. Moreover, one knew that the other party's intention was not good. "Just going to eat tea and chat," Shen Miao said lightly. "There is no need for courage." Uncle Tang nodded his head. Exactly. Exactly. His gaze towards Shen Miao was more satisfied. He gave a few more instructions before retreating. Shen Miao looked at this octagonal Anise. Octagonal Anise stood upright and looked at her with a smile. This kind of expression was somewhat silly, but made one feel that it was very cute. Today Shen Miao went to the Kai Xia banquet, and it was indeed strenuous without anyone to guide her. If there was someone to explain by the side, it would save a lot of effort. Xie Jingxing was thoughtful, and Shen Miao smiled gently. Suddenly she thought of Shen Miao and looked at Octagonal Anise before asking, "It is not that there are no maids in the residence of the prince of first rank." Other than the kitchen maids and a few moms, there were only manservants and guards in the residence of the prince of first rank, and there were no maids. Thus Shen Miao brought along Jingzhe, Guyu, and the rest, and almost became the most popular people in the residence of the prince of first rank. Octagonal Anise smiled. "This servant is not a maid of the residence of the prince of first rank." This servant is from the MOU army and was specially transferred over to accompany foreign. MOU army? Shen Miao was surprised for a moment. She had heard Xie Jingxing vaguely mention it before. When they were in Mingqi, this army had helped Xie Jingxing to do many things. It seemed that Xie Jingxing had privately raised these troops and seemed to be extremely powerful. But since Xie Jingxing dared to let them act so boldly, one think that Emperor Yong Lu was not ignorant. She asked, "Do you know martial arts?" "This servant knows how to kill." Octagonal Anise answered with a smile. Jingzhe and Guyu both sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard it. It was true that one cannot judge a book by its cover. This smiling Su Minglang, who looked like a grown-up female, was actually an expert in killing people. Shen Miao was satisfied. She thought that Xie Jingxing was really a bad person. He gave the octagonal anise to her and let her go to the Kaixia banquet. In other words, at least in terms of martial arts, she would not be at a disadvantage. Shen Miao said, "Since that is the case, then follow me. Jingzhe will stay in the residence and tidy up the storeroom with Bai Lu and Shuangjiang. Guyu, you and Ba Jiao will set off with me." Jingzhe was almost done packing, but was told that she could not go. She felt wronged and was quite dissatisfied with Octagonal Anise. However, she was afraid that Octagonal Anise would kill her in a fit of anger. She reluctantly told Octagonal Anise to take good care of Shen Miao before leaving. When everything was ready, Shen Miao boarded the horse carriage and rushed to the Kaixia banquet venue, the Lu residence. This time Shen Miao did not bring Mo Qing along. The guards that she brought along were all from the residence of Prince Rui. Naturally, she had her considerations. Mo Qing was after all a Ming Qi's person, but with the people from the residence of Prince Rui, it would make the other party somewhat fearful and would not easily make a move. It was just that one's mouth was happy, and Shen Miao was the one who was least afraid of arguing with others. Longyi was different from the Ding capital. The territory of the Great Liang was closer to the east and was more sunny. Even the winter days were not as cold as the Ding capital, much less the summer. Now it was May, and if it was in the Ding capital, it would still be spring, but in Longyi it was already the beginning of summer, and there was a slight heat. As the horse carriage traveled, Shen Miao and Guyu lifted the curtains a little to look outside. When they saw that the streets of Longyi were really bustling with people and carriages, their hearts sighed with emotion. Chapter 898. It was no wonder that the common people of the small country that was attacked would open the city gates to welcome them. If one could bring good days to the people of the world, then what was the name of the country? To the common people, it was a distant matter. Emperor Yong Lu was indeed a talent in governing the world. After traveling for almost an hour, the horse carriage finally stopped. Ba Jiao lifted the curtain to take a look and said, "Foreign, we have arrived at the Lu residence." Guyu and Ba Jiao helped Shen Miao down the horse carriage and saw that there were many horse carriages parked at the entrance of the Lu residence, but there was not a single person at the entrance to welcome them. Guyu was stunned and said, "Why is there no one here to welcome? Could it be that we went the wrong way?" It was said that they went the wrong way, but it did not look like they went the wrong way because the main doors of the Lu residence were not closed, as if it was specially left open for her. Shen Miao swept a glance at the door and had some thoughts in her heart. She asked Guyu, "What is the time on the invitation for the Kaixia banquet?" Guyu quickly took out the invitation from her sleeves and opened it. "It is the sea hour." "It is not the sea hour yet. It seems that only the invitation to us is like this," Shen Miao said lightly. Guyu said, "Foreign, what is the meaning of this? There are horse carriages in front of the door, and it is obvious that there are guests here. Even if they came earlier, there should not be so many. There is no one at the door to welcome them, but they stayed for us, knowing that we would definitely come. If I guess correctly, the time on other people's invitation must be the sea hour, but on our invitation, it is the sea hour. This is to deliberately let us come late." Finishing, she laughed in her heart. It seemed that no matter if it was Ming Qi or Great Liang, these noble foreign's methods were always the same. Ba Jiao was still smiling, but Guyu was suddenly enlightened and said angrily, "But what benefits is there for them to tease young lady like this? They are going too far. Benefits? Shen Miao's voice turned slightly cold. There are many benefits. It is rude to enter without anyone's invitation, and they will say that the Shun family is presumptuous. If he didn't enter, he would have been disrespectful. If he left halfway after taking the invitation, he would have gone back on his words. The reason lies with them. They've been caught in the wrong. From the beginning, they've lowered their heads, but as time goes on, they're nothing more than a joke. Fighting with others was also a form of knowledge, and one must not be caught at the beginning, otherwise one would be lowering one's head. She and Mei Foreign had fought for so many years and understood this point. Octagonal and Niece asked, "Madam, do you still want to go in? Come in." Shen Miao lifted her skirt and was about to walk in. But Foreign, Guyu asked doubtfully, "If one were to go in, one would be caught at the wrong place, and it is also wrong not to enter. Advancing and retreating are both wrong, so why do one still want to go in? Then let others make bigger mistakes than you." Shen Miao smiled. That way, no one will care about your mistakes. In the Lu Manor, the atmosphere in the hall was very harmonious. As a very famous general of Long Yi, the Lu family's status was extremely high. Thus, their mansion was also large and luxurious. Today's Kaixiao banquet was personally organized by Lu Foreign, and the compliments were endless. Lu Foreign was in her early 40s, and most likely when she was young. She was a budding beauty, but when she was old, she looked thin and mean, losing some of her dignified air. Even so, she was still dressed very luxuriously, as if this would add a little bit of brilliance to her. It was just that as a female, when one was older, wearing unsuitable bright clothes, not only did it not make her look better, but it would undoubtedly expose the shortcomings of her old age. Lu Foreign is really blessed. A round-faced Foreign said with a smile. Imperial concubine Jean is doted on by His Majesty in the palace, and Imperial concubine Jean is so filial to you. For this Kaixiao banquet, His Majesty specially sent gifts. This is enough to see the weight of Imperial concubine Jean in His Majesty's heart. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.